Well, would you look at that? It's already December. It snuck up on us so quickly this year. I wonder why. Such a wonderful time of the year. Roasted chestnuts, hot cocoa, 30,000 car pileups in Texas over half an inch of snow, and the Steam holiday sale. With so many options, how can I choose a game to spend my hard-earned doubloons on? If only there was a fun and engaging roguelike game that I haven't played yet, that's extremely stylized with great music and a fun gameplay loop. RoboQuest is a roguelite FPS developed by Rise Up Studios. It's loud, fast, stylized, and it's the answer to all my prayers. This video might sound a bit more nonsensical and scatterbrained than our others, and this is because I genuinely couldn't figure out how to talk about this game. Not because there's not a lot to talk about, quite the opposite actually. This game has consumed a significant part of my time frighteningly fast. Every time I boot up the game, 3 hours would pass by out of nowhere, compared to other modern releases where 3 hours feels like an eternity in purgatory. But why? What makes RoboQuest this good? Well, gather around, because I'm going to try to figure out why I love this game with all my heart, and hopefully convince you to try it out too. The main thing that caught my eye about RoboQuest was its style. It's nice to browse Steam and have my eyeballs assaulted by something visually interesting instead of something like this. Ever since Borderlands 2 released and ruined my life by being one of the best things ever made, I've had the insatiable need to play another game with that level of style, something that almost perfected the 3D cel-shaded look. Everything from the enemies, weapons, and the environments in RoboQuest bleeds this cartoonish comic book feel. It's rare to find something with this much style packed into every facet of a game, but RoboQuest does it with ease. This is also supplemented by some awesome 2D art as well. Something as simple as loading screens are given the time and love to become something way cooler and engaging. Granted, some of the art in these screens looks a little unfinished, but this game is still under production, and it's cool to see a game grow and develop in real time. As someone that submits my college assignments 30% complete pretty much every time, I'm in no position to criticize things for looking unfinished. I looked around and found some older concept art from the game. It seems the original aesthetic of the game was supposed to reflect a more serious and dire tone. The shift from this original feel to something more fun and simple was an excellent choice. RoboQuest is a game that's hella fun, easy to pick up quickly and get lost in for hours. The fact that the devs have been able to craft a visual style that perfectly encapsulates this is nothing short of an achievement worth the highest praise. But you know what aspect of this game also embodies this? The music. I tried to think of a funny and epic way to start this section off, but nothing my sludge brain could say could ever do this game's soundtrack justice. Just check this shit out. Without a doubt, some of the best music ever put into a video game, hands down. I'd put it up there with the likes of Hotline Miami and Doom. The soundtrack was done by an artist called Noise Cream, and this dude's name is no exaggeration. This music is truly the cream of the crop. I wish I knew more about music to explain why it's so good, but you heard it yourself, it fucking slaps. It's surprising to find a game made by a small team with a soundtrack this perfectly crafted. Not only does the music perfectly blend into this fast and chaotic experience, but when you do take a sec to just listen to it, it's hard not to just sit there and enjoy how good it is. With how excellent the visuals and music are, it's hard to believe that these aspects are just supplementary to some truly, baller-ass gameplay. One of the reasons I've had trouble putting into words why I love RoboQuest so much is how deceptively in-depth it is. Part of what makes this game fun is how simple it is, but what keeps me coming back is its level of depth. As I said earlier, this game is a roguelike. It's got your usual roguelike elements like randomly generated areas and weapons, permadeath, bosses, the voices, upgrades, you know, the usual. While RoboQuest doesn't really do that much to innovate the genre, it doesn't really need to. The roguelite elements of this game are more of a way to keep you coming back to the same amazing gameplay loop. The core of RoboQuest gameplay is its intense moment-to-moment FPS action. The game moves quick. After you first get into the game, it won't take long for you to fall into the trance-like state that makes this game so addictive. A huge part of RoboQuest's fun comes from its sick-ass movement system. It's overwhelming at first, but mastering the movement system in RoboQuest is seriously satisfying, especially on the harder difficulties. The volume of projectiles being thrown at you requires the player to become a blur of violence. You need to be constantly jumping, sliding, sprinting, and grinding like Tony Hawk in order to make it through these levels, and you're probably gonna die. A lot. But if you're like me, you probably suck at most games and can take getting clapped repeatedly run after run. It just adds to my enjoyment, honestly. While you're bouncing around the levels like an unsupervised child at a trampoline park, you'll also be shooting guns. A lot of them too. There's a huge variety of weapons to use, and they somehow all feel awesome to use as well. Except for the buddy bot, he kinda sucks. They all feel punchy and weighty, while also fitting in perfectly with the comic book style of the game overall. There's even animated sound effects for every gun when they fire. This is the type of thing that activates my neurons. The types of guns that I grew to love are the more precision-based weapons. At first, I avoided them like the plague, because how the hell am I supposed to snipe these enemies while zooming through the levels and also dodging projectiles? By getting good, I guess? Fuck you looking at me for? The more you play, the more familiar you'll become with the precision weapons, and before you know it, you'll be hitting some schnasty shots while also moving at ludicrous speeds. Once you get the hang of it, it becomes one of the most satisfying parts of the entire game. Of course, there's always the missile gatling or the torpedo gun if you just want to not deal with an entire section of a level. The things eating all your bullets are also pretty cool too. Enemies in RoboQuest, while being pretty standard, are still fun to fight nonetheless. I'm not going to bother listing all of them here since there's a bunch that all just kinda shoot at you, but there's enough variety to make the combat fun and mix things up, like the shock pod. This guy predicts where the player is moving and fires an electric mortar shot to stun the player. The only way to escape is to press the same directional button 3 times in a row. This doesn't sound too hard, but when you're completely in the zone and are then forced to stop and think for a second, it can fluster you really bad. An enemy similar to this is the hook pod, that shoots a laser at you and forces you to stay in its vicinity until you solve its riddles 3. Or kill it. It really says a lot about the movement of this game when the most annoying enemies to deal with are the ones that prevent you from moving. There's also these drones that fly around and like, take a picture of you. I don't really know what they do, but whatever it is, it's disorienting and I hate it.
I'm allowed to record you. It's a free country. No, it's a free country. It's a free country. It's a free country.
There's also the drones that are just flying flamethrowers. These guys are new and hella annoying. But like all the enemies, they're just fun to shoot at, so they're chill, I guess.
You burned my house to the ground!
There are certain enemy types that are specific to certain zones, which adds another layer of depth to each encounter. Before you start Baby's first run, however, you'll be greeted by the base camp. The base camp is where a variety of things happen. It's also where Max hangs out. She seems chill, but she keeps hitting me with that Sigma stare, so I try not to stick around too long. At base camp, you'll be able to acquire upgrades that will help you on your run. This whole ass chart they present you with can be a bit confusing, but they all help you in the end. Plus, you get wrenches to buy upgrades pretty quick, so just go hog wild. You can also pick your difficulty here. I'm gonna be frank with you, anything above standard destroys me, and I'm too scared to try anything harder than that. After you pick your difficulty, you gotta choose your class. As of the making of this video, there are 4 classes. First, you got the Guardian. Guardian's main ability is to generate a safety bubble for a short time that protects him from all incoming damage. Next, you got Recon. Recon allows you to turn invisible and move quickly in order to reposition and melee an enemy from behind. Engineer can summon friendly drones that pump out extra damage by shooting at enemies. His melee also just shoots an explosive projectile, which I guess isn't really a melee. Lastly, we got the Commando. Commando shoots a rocket as his ability and is pure DPS. He's fun to play if you just don't want to think. His melee is also just a shotgun blast. In the same character selection screen, you can also choose 2 or 3 gadgets that can really change the feel of a run and add a ton of fun. Rocket Pants gang. With all that sorted out, go on and jump into a run and watch 5 hours disappear out of nowhere. RoboQuest is structured by the certain levels you move through. You always start off your run in the same level, the canyon, and can choose different paths to enter as you progress through the run. Each level also contains its own unique enemies and music too. Inside all levels, you can find these little challenge areas where, upon completing a Roblox obby, rewards you with extra guns and experience points. On top of this, there's also secret areas and things to find in each level. Be sure to take a break from massacring other robots to look around and explore a bit. Each level feels unique and is always fun to move through, but the fact that the game allows you to move through whichever levels you want adds another layer of depth to the game. Every other level you complete ends with a boss stage. The bosses are a joy to fight and always feel pretty distinct from one another. It's impressive how well designed the bosses are, except for Judge Ball. I fucking hate that guy. No matter what path you take through your run, you'll eventually end up at Haven City. Up until this point, the levels you completed had a more linear structure to them, having you move through the level in order to fight a boss. Haven City changes it up by having its level be one open world map, where the player has to find and take down 4 mini-bosses in order to progress. At first, this change confused me. Up until this point, all the levels had an excellent flow to them. The linear structure allowed the player to move quickly and efficiently while also fighting off enemies. But I came to appreciate this change the more I played. Giving the player the freedom of choice to explore at their own pace helps add a layer of depth to each run, while also switching up the gameplay and keeping things interesting. The next area also follows this format and is then capped off with the final boss of the game, Beetle Royale. This boss kicks my ass, but its name made me laugh like that frog doing a flip, so it's okay. That's about as far as the game has been developed in terms of levels, but if the under construction signs are anything to go by, there's a lot more on the way. There's also co-op. Co-op is unsurprisingly really fun, because everything is more fun when you have a friend with you, except for when they go down and you gotta sacrifice half your health to pick them up. That's when you send them a 4,000 terabit zip bomb disguised as an Ask Reddit link. So, are you ready for the big reveal? The reason why this game captivated me and stole so many hours of my life away? There's no cool answer. The game is just fun as fuck. RoboQuest has genuinely become one of my favorite games extremely fast. The visuals, the music, and the gameplay are far beyond what I was expecting when I picked this game up on a whim a while ago. Rise Up Studios are punching way above their weight, and they're doing it expertly. It makes me a little sad to see that a game as wonderfully made as this doesn't seem to have the recognition it deserves. Especially with the frequency of updates from the devs, I had never heard of it until I saw it randomly on Steam, and I can't remember actually seeing anyone discuss it online either. So, if you're so inclined, pick up a copy. Hell, spread some holiday cheer and get one for your buddy too. RoboQuest is slated to hit 1.0 early 2023, but I have a feeling that Rise Up is only getting started with this game. It seems like there's a lot more to come, and it'll only get better from here. Thanks for watching.
Stop posting about ballers. I'm tired of seeing it.